Sunrise, Diddy. Well, yesterday, a federal high court sitting in Abuja gave a ruling restricting the CBN and its agencies from releasing monthly allocation to Rivers State. Now, there's been a build-up to all of this. But before we delve into all of that, the plaintiff, the counsel, the lawyers, they spoke. But then the governor also spoke when he got that information. So we'll have to let you listen to both of them before we come on to our guests this morning.
Issues are very clear. Let us explain in very clear terms. The section 120, 121, 122, and 123 of the Constitution clearly stipulated what should be done before the state can spend money, state expenditure. And it's clear there that no money shall be appropriated without an appropriated bill being passed by the House of Assembly. It's very clear from the judgment of Motosho, which was confirmed by the Court of Appeal, that the budget was not properly passed. And in a situation like that, if it's not passed within 6 months, a state is not supposed to collect revenue from a consolidated fund. That is the issue of lawyers. That is the extant provision of the law. And that's what the court has confirmed today, that the Rivers State government has not complied with the requirement of the Constitution on appropriation of bills for expenditures and all the things that they need to do in the state government. It's a very clear judgment. And then also looking at all the other judgments that have been passed in respect of Rivers State government, it's clear from this judgment, which also rely on the judgment of the Court of Appeal, that the state government is in violation of the extant provisions of the Constitution relating to expenditure and passing of the bill for expenditure. So it's clearly they cannot continue to allow this infraction to continue.
Okay, well, the governor also spoke. Let's hear what he said.
Journey so far, we have taken the most difficult part of this struggle. There is nothing that is happening now that is not surmountable. I want you to know that. So you need to brace up and be strong. Nothing has happened. We're still complete. We're still intact. Let me tell you, they said we're not going to last for 1 week. We're here. We have done 1 year plus. We're also doing 1 year anniversary of the attempt. Today, we have the local government chairman sitting with us. They said commissioners should resign immediately so that we'll be crippled. Today, we have more than 23 commissioners. They said they are not going to do anything. We want to frustrate them in a program in UST. They said we're going to make them, they don't succeed. By the special grace of God, we have embarked on projects that are touching the life of Rivers State. So you don't need to bother about the stories that are in social media. That one is the least of your trouble. By tomorrow, I'm still going to pay my contractors. By tomorrow, those of you that have not gotten your salary, will already pay salary, your alert will also get to you. I ask you again.
All right, so joining us to discuss these matters, we've got Shugbaye Eli, who is a lawyer and a former chairman Degema, a local government area in Rivers State. Sitting beside him is Emmanuel Anene, who is also a legal practitioner. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, good morning, Chamberlain.
Mr. Eli,
thanks for having me.
Good morning.
Good to see you in the studios, not virtually this time. So, tell us, what's going through your mind right now? We've heard yes from the governor, and probably a lot of other people may have those in government. But for you, what do you think of this judgment?
Well, I wear two caps here. One as a Rivers man, the other as a lawyer. And that means that my constituency, the judiciary, and what's going on there should bother me. Now, it appears we're putting the cart before the horse. All of this crisis is unnecessary if we do the right things. And that's why I have the Constitution as a document that controls all persons and authorities. Once we don't pick and select what to obey or respect the Constitution, we'll have a crisis. This whole hula ball about yesterday's judgment, Again, with respect to my Lord, I'm sure all of the issues are not before her. If all of the issues were before her, judgment may not come in that direction. And what are the issues? Rivers State House has 32 seats. As we speak, fact, one representing Ahoda East Constituency 2 resigned and is current chief of staff in Government House. One, my learned friend and brother, Barrister Lulu Dinebari, died as Kana Constituency 2. 27 defected, and not only defected, took steps to show that they had left the PDP for the APC, including filing matters in court and had affidavits sworn thereto. All of that is what Constitution says: when you do that, you leave your seats. So the bottom line is, what has the government of Rivers State done, or what has Rivers Port done, or what has INEC done to fill the vacant seats? Nowhere in the Constitution does it provide for a defected member of the House not to recontest. So if we have Rivers State as a priority interest, we have Nigeria as a priority interest, this crisis will not be necessary. People simply go back and run elections because they're taking the first step that says you can't do that. And they're not judicial authorities. And of course, for me, yesterday judgment, I looked at it, I just shook my head and said, well, maybe the judge didn't have all the facts. But in terms of whether or not the governor can access funds from Constitutional Revenue Fund under Section 120 and 121, the law is settled. As for somebody had passed a budget. Now, if somebody says that budget was not passed properly, they forget and they keep citing just Omotoso's judgment.
Isn't that what the judgment says?
Yes, they keep citing that. And see, in law, the principle of natural justice are built on two foundations. One, fair hearing. The right to fair hearing is sacrosanct. You must hear the other side. Now, in that matter, after the president intervened, the governor withdrew. People are forgetting that.
Okay. Well, before
so when they withdrew, the judge had nothing.
So we heard your opening statement. What is your thought on this judgment?
Yeah, I'm surprised my learned friend is saying there are facts, or the fact is not complete before my Lord Justice. That's not correct. The case was contested and judgment came, meaning that the parties are aware that this particular matter is before the court. So if a matter is before the court and you're a party, you are inclined to bring all your facts that will assist the court in coming to a conclusive judgment of the matter. And that was what happened. Now, talking about the judgment, he said people kept citing Omotoso's judgment. Then, if you read section 96 of section 1, what is the quorum of Rivers State House of Assembly to carry on legitimate business? You have to form a quorum first. If you did not form a quorum, you cannot even transact a legitimate business because you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. If you read the case of McFord against UAC, Maduko against Nkemdelim, it is settled that if you are putting something on nothing, it will not stand. That section 96 says for a House of Assembly to transact business, you must have one-third of all the members. Now, he said there are 32 members. Then one died and one resigned. So what is the...
And some defected.
And some defected. Now, that defection, the locus classicus in defection in Nigeria is the case of Abegunde's case. But it was decision of the court. Not somebody sitting somewhere and said, if you dig, because it's not self-executed. Even yesterday, Chamberlain, somebody, Suleiman Abubakar from Zamfara State, defected. Did he lose his seat? Late Ifeanyi Ubah defected from YPP to APC. Did he lose his seat? So it is when you go to court and canvass, because section 109 subsection 1G that says, unless there is division in the party, is not self-executing. You have to go to court and canvass your case before the court. So the fact is not true that the facts were not before my Lord Justice that gave judgment yesterday. I think it's a victory for democracy because we cannot live in banana republic where might is right, where you should speak about the judgment, because the governor was in court the other time challenging, there was a challenge to his election from election petition tribunal to Supreme Court. He got judgment, unanimous judgment. That time, judiciary was not on trial. Now, like Obama said, when the case of Trevor Mattis came, he said, we're a nation of jury. The law has spoken, and we don't have any alternative than to abide by it. If you go to court and you lost, then you have the window to appeal. If you go to Supreme Court, you cannot appeal again. But it is not good for the governor, for any other person speaking on his behalf, to continue to downgrade our judiciary because the judgment did not go your own way. Because what is happening here is, because if you read the case of Williams against Majekodemi, it was decided in 1962. The Supreme Court says if a legislator oversteps his bound oversteps his bound or did not follow the due process required by the Constitution, that step is nullified. Then if you read, there are also a locus classicus on this revenue case in Nigeria. The case of Attorney General of the Federation, Attorney General of Bende State, and Attorney General of the Federation. It was decided in 1982. What did the Supreme Court say? What happened was that the National Assembly constituted a joint committee. The joint committee passed a resolution about that allocation bill. What they did was to adopt it without going to different houses to re-adopt it. And so the Supreme Court said no. That becomes a nullity. Okay. So also the 2024 appropriation bill passed by Rivers State by 3 members.
Okay, so
it is ridiculous.
If you could just, I'd like to get your response specifically on this. The question of quorum, and then the examples that he's given about those who defected in the same country and didn't lose their seats.
Let me just say this again for emphasis. I said I sit down here with 2 caps.
Yeah.
I don't want to be misunderstood. My learned friend has cited laws. Well, in the courtroom, but okay, it's okay. Now, in law, if a court, even if a judge were present in the scene of crime, all right, it's incumbent on the prosecution to prove this case. Basic principle. The judge doesn't need to tell the world that I saw it. No. That's how the justice system works. We're saying that the parties come to court to facts. And what are the facts? Except we're thinking Nigerians are dummies. People see what's going on in Rivers State. Now, if a court, properly so-called, sees the jurisdiction, sits on a matter, the facts are known to the public, and the judge returns a verdict.
But the facts are not, the court of public opinion doesn't determine what the
facts are. I'm not saying it determines. Justice must be seen to be done. Seen to be done by who? By the justice system, and seen by who? The public.
So clearly you don't think justice has been done.
I'm coming. For me, what's important for also put integrity of judiciary, and I think it's something the fact that I try to use the word I'm trying to denigrate. I'm not. As a lawyer, senior lawyers have said this. What are we running away from? A matter arose from a family house, same political party. Somebody has taken a step, and he has cited examples of what the judiciary has done, local classicals. He forgets that the Supreme Court has spoken in the case of Michael Dapelong against Joshua Shibidari, when part-time members of the House Assembly of Plateau defected, all right, to join Advanced Congress of Democracy, ACD, from the PDP. Now they came back, those who are remaining, attempted to impeach the governor. The Supreme Court, speaking through my Lord, the Honorable Justice Walter Kanu Onogen, former CJ, said, look, all of what has happened is when there's a depletion in numbers, the House can sit. Where there's a defection, what you cannot do is a power to impeach the governor. That's the power they can exercise. So applying that to what has happened in Rivers State, except by saying that the federal court is not bound by the decision of the Supreme Court, that's a defection. And if it want to answer the question, if it does right, why are we not having denials about defection? You treat the cause,
so for you,
to settle.
The status of, you're saying that the defection subsists.
It subsists, and I take exception to the fact that it says it must go to courts before.
But isn't there a judgment?
I'm coming. We have the situation where if the presiding officer is not a victim or is not guilty as well, as well in Rivers State, you cannot be a judge in your own case. In any event, people also forget that at the time that thing happened on December 11, by December 13, the High Court of Rivers State sat and gave approval to Etienne here to sit as Speaker. And as Speaker, he wrote a letter to INEC after he executed that provision of the law, section 109 sub 2, gave effect to that defection and called for INEC to conduct election to fill those seats.
Was it validly elected as Speaker?
A court has said so. I cannot sit on appeal against that court. I said the High Court of Rivers State, presented by Justice Bonima W. Danagogo of High Court of Rivers State, said so. I'm not in the position to review that judgment. I can't sit on appeal that judgment. Now, he sat on that and gave that order. Now, the question is, in law, what happens when you have a judgment before you? Only 2 things. I have only 2 options. One, you obey the judgment, or you appeal against it. You have no third option. So when that thing happened, those who are questioning what has happened, the question is, what did they do with that judgment? And why has INEC not obeyed that letter?
I want to get Mr. Nene's thoughts, because, you know, many reactions have trailed these judgments. I want to give you the one from CISLAC yesterday. And I want to be able to quote them. So Nigeria's states are vital components of our constitutional framework, led by elected governors charged with managing resources for the benefit of the citizens. Blocking allocations not only undermines this autonomy, but sets a dangerous precedent, risking destabilization and endangering regions currently at peace. What do you make of those statements there by Sislak?
I'm a lawyer. That's my primary constituency. Whether Sislak are politicians or not, I'm not aware. Or, you know, all these organized civil society groups. Let's discuss law first. If we discuss law, this is the provisions of the extant law. This is what I cited the case of Attorney General of Bende State against the Supreme Court nullified, even though that was a Federal Appropriation Act. Now, the court in this instance...
Bende State?
Yes.
Okay.
AG Bende State. That was a locus classicus on this appropriation case in Nigeria.
Okay. It
was decided in 1982. If you can read it. One constitutional law report, 430. You can cite it. Now, the court has spoken that this is because why we are, like Obama said, we're a nation of laws. And the court is that if you have misgiving against any judgment or anything, you approach the court for resolution. And what the court says becomes the law. Now, the court says 3 people cannot sit down in the comfort of their room and pass a budget of a state. Now, it's not anybody, unlike what happened during Obasanjo's regime, when the president was the governor of Lagos State. Obasanjo unilaterally stopped the allocation to Lagos State. But that was overturned by the Supreme Court. In this case, it is only the court that has right to stop such allocation, and the court has done it. The court did not just stop it. It said, represent 2024 River State Appropriation Bill to the appropriate authority. And what is the appropriate authority? The appropriate authority means the House, eminently led by Honorable Martins Amehule. That was recognized by Justice Omotosho's case. That was recognized by Justice Peter Lifu's case. That was also recognized by Court of Appeal decision. Now, the judgment is cited in Port Harcourt are interlocutory applications. They are not final judgment. And in this case, interlocutory applications cannot be played side by side with the final judgment. Because as at the time you are giving interlocutory order, you have not been able to have a clear view of all the matters. It's when you give a final judgment, you would have considered all the issues vis-a-vis the facts before you. Now, he's talking about fair hearing. Now, in that Justice Omotosho's case, the governor is not the plaintiff in that matter. The people who are the plaintiff in that matter is River State House of Assembly and Martins Amehule, the second plaintiff. The governor appeared there as 11th defendant. Then the Attorney General was also there. Now, the ADC here was the 17th defendant in that suit. For reasons best known to the governor, he withdrew all his applications. And my Justice Omotosho made allusion to that. In that judgment, he said it should be noted that the 11th defendant in this case withdrew all his applications, including the filings he made in this case. There was no reason given by it, and I'm not here to give any reasons. If the president said withdraw all your cases, now the president is directing you as a plaintiff, not you as a defendant, because you are not the person that instituted the matter. If the person that instituted the matter has refused or failed to withdraw the matter, you as a defendant, you don't have a right to, unless you don't want to defend the matter. And that was what happened. And in this case, the governor can no longer plead lack of fair hearing. And that was what played out in Court of Appeal. When the judgment of Omotosho came, he went to Court of Appeal to challenge it. Now the Court of Appeal said, in the trial court, you withdrew your processes voluntarily. Why are you coming to challenge it before the Court of Appeal?
Let's talk about the response of the governor. Because we did hear him say this is not...
Can I come in?
Hold on, we'll get to you shortly. The governor says this is not my problem. This is not one of my pressing issues right now. I'm even going to pay my contractors today. People that haven't gotten their alerts are going to get their alerts recently. You know, should he be worried? Is this something he should be worried about?
The governor should be worried because the governor should be worried, and every Nigerian should be worried because that is what the governor maybe has sold himself to impunity. Because the Court of Appeal even uses it. Because he has immunity, he can do anything that he likes against the extant provisions of the 1999 Constitution and extant laws. The judgment of if it's in America, a court give a judgment, even the president should be worried. Everybody should be worried. We cannot be denigrating the judgment coming from court because it does not concern you or you have the power to overreach it. What should the governor should be worried, and he should obey the court order. There are 1, 2, 3 asserted judgment of Peter Lifu, asserted judgment of Omotosho. Don't present any budget except the one led by Martin Sambehule. Don't present anything except, don't present anything to the so-called, the court uses so-called 3 members House of Assembly. The governor ignored it. He has been treating the court judgment with levity.
All right.
Mr. Shagbe.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate my brother is enervated. I don't know where he gets his energy from. He does not remember that the Supreme Court that rules in that Dapialon's case. And that judge that he's referring to is bound, including Justice Lifu. He has also not had his mind to the reason why Milord the CJN had set up a panel to look at these conflicting issues in River State. If it was normal law and everything was okay, you think the CJN would do that? That should give me some kind of red flag. All is not well. The courts exist to do justice, not to play and pander the whims of caprices of politicians. We can't submit a lot of politics.
I want to get your thoughts on the complaint, which is that, you know, this is it's undermining the sovereignty of a state.
Of course.
So you agree with Sislak?
Of course I agree with Sislak, and not only Sislak. If you apply the Supreme Court judgments in the case of Attorney General of Lagos State against Attorney General of Federation in 2004, when President Obasanjo seized Lagos Council funds, because then Governor Bola Ahmed Tinubu, leading Lagos State, created councils. Now, the Constitution says for you to create a council in your state, you must bring the National Assembly for concurrence, for approval. So if you don't do that, the council inchoates. That's the word the Constitution used, the Supreme Court used. Now, be that as it may, the president then ultra-vires the Constitution, sees the allocation going to Lagos. Then you have 20 councils must stay there. My Lord, the Honorable Justice Mohammed Lawal led the panel and ruled and said, release it. The council's money is going to sub-national units for any reason. So here we are, whether you began by the president seizing the allocation on its own volition, so motu, or whether a court sat and seized it because a matter of president of the court, it's ultra-vires the Constitution. What are the issues? Why are we running away from the defection issue?
I'm sorry, are you saying that this judgment is ultra-vires to the Constitution?
I'm saying so because in our system, in our legal system, in the hierarchy of courts, whatever the Supreme Court has said is binding and final courts below, when the principles are the same. When the principles are the same.
What's the principle?
The principles are not the same.
I'm coming.
You'll come to that.
The principle of withdrawal allocation. For any reason. In the case of Lagos State, the governor of the Lagos State government did not complete the process of creating local government council. Therefore, the president probably was not patient enough. In this case, the president is not a party, but some people in the university have gone to court to say, look, now those who come to equity must come clean hands. Who took this matter to court? Who should the House of Assembly?
No, but those are different principles.
I'm coming.
Trying to create a local government.
No, I'm coming. I'm saying the principle of seizing allocation. Okay. Someone has the power to hold power, right? Say, don't give this. All right? Whether how you exercise, whether you pass through a president or you pass through a court. But simply saying the principle is you're withholding money that is due to subnational units. All right? Now I'm saying that, look, we have to tread softly. You come to equity with unclean hands, expect that equity will give you what you want? No. Somebody sued the House of Assembly River State. After you defected, Pastor Mehule read out his defection letters. Citing Section 109 sub 1G. It was a court that told him, he said it. He read the letter himself, who gave him. Now you know obey the same constitution. You talk about 96 as quorum. Quorum talks about the members of the House Assembly. Now, so if we have a defection, as a reverse man, I'm concerned that we're not filling those vacancies.
Okay.
It must not be by you.
Yeah, I hope you don't lose your train of thought, but let me ask you too. So, yeah, you've spoken about the principle, which you'll respond to in a minute, but can you also speak to the fact that why the plaintiff, the governor and Edison here were said to have withdrawn their cases? So having withdrawn all of those things to the courts and Justice Omotosho gave his judgment, why were they then appealing? On what grounds were they appealing when you withdrew all of them?
If your matter is in court, even a legal system recognize what they call alternative dispute resolution. So people can be in courts, even in battles where people are fighting as soldiers. They go to the side and speak. It's done so many times. So while this matter was raging in university, the president intervened. Maybe forget the facts. Let's not forget them. An advice party, if you look at that 8-point directive by the president, one of the parties must withdraw all suits and discontinue litigation. What we're asking is, so Governor Fubara withdrew, even though it was a defendant. Edson withdrew, even though it was a defendant. And then the plaintiff failed to withdraw. And now the plaintiff is now lashing on that.
So two things. In that case, well, maybe they were trying to get a solution, so he withdrew. But people will also ask, but if the plaintiff didn't withdraw and the defendants withdrew, shouldn't you have asked questions or make public outcry? Look, this has happened, this person hasn't done it. And two, after that happened and the judgment was given, why then were you going to appeal after you, according to judgment, you have shot yourself in the foot?
I agree with you. See, in law, if I withdraw from a process and the judgment comes and the judgment affects me adversely, I have a right to appeal. What you do in law is that you seek leave to appeal. And seeking leave to appeal, that kind of special judgment, you give advanced reasons why you should be heard. All right? Maybe the appeal court was not convinced enough by the reason adduced by the governor in filing his appeal against that person's judgment. But a moral question has arisen here. And whether people like it or not, some school of thought in law say law and morality don't mix.
Say laws
but
are
they
about
do mix. For me, I believe the school of thought that do. I agree that, for instance, if a man walks into my home and at gunpoint robs my family, maybe rapes my daughter, and then runs out, and then hides under the toga of one kind of order of court to protect him, or maybe has immunity. Yes, that's all the law says. But am I satisfied that I'm unable to go after the person that did that kind of thing to me?
But you can't take laws into your hands.
That's what I'm saying. So let's say I can balance the two sides.
Okay.
If the governor had, for instance, in good faith, withdrawn his process, and that party also withdrew their process, will not be here. Now, you that did not withdraw, it's acting like you're wise enough to have done what you have done. What about the fact that you defected?
We're going to come to quorum, but go ahead and respond before we go to that
you see, let me make the matter straight. Edison here did not withdraw any process. Edison here resigned his membership of Rivers State Assembly, and it was noted in that judgment.
Yeah, but the part that he said was, even though he says interlocutory, the court recognized him as speaker.
Yes, now, but in the court recognized he resigned. He's no longer a member, so he has no locus standi again to even say anything.
No.
Once he resigned, once the matter was pending,
yes,
and he voluntarily resigned his membership of Rivers State House of Assembly. So he has no locus in that case.
No,
because
is that resignation valid from the point of law?
No, the resignation of his membership of that house. Because it's that house. You have to be a member of a house before you become a speaker or not a speaker. Now, when he resigned his membership voluntarily to take another appointment as chief of staff, he has lost his local standing in that case before Justice Omotosho. That was what happened. Now, talking about what he said that the CGN invited the court about the judgment's comment. If you read section 272, subsection 3 of 1999 Constitution, the state high court, where they got that interlocutory order, does not have jurisdiction to determine whether a member has lost his seat or not. The jurisdiction, it was exclusive jurisdiction engraved to the federal high court to decide whether a governor...
Even though it's a state matter?
No, that is the constitution that is talking, not me. The constitution section 272, subsection 3 says the state.
Hold on, just so you can.
I'm coming. I have to respond to many things he said now.
Okay, but the thing is, because I don't want him to lose his train of thought, because he doesn't agree with that. And
it's not about
many people do not agree with that.
He will read the constitution.
Okay.
Section 272, subsection 3 of 1999 Constitution gives exclusive jurisdiction as to whether a person has lost his seat as a member of State House Assembly or a governor or deputy governor, exclusively to the Federal High Court.
Okay.
The State High Court has no jurisdiction, but they ran to State High Court in Rivers State to get an order. And that is what we are contending here. Now, if you think about what he was talking about, morality or no morality, if somebody filed an action, instituted an action, and the directive came from Mr. President, the persons who are in court, who instituted actions should withdraw, who instituted actions. If he did not institute an action, how are you going to withdraw what he did not institute? So probably the governor was misled, or he had other games that he was playing in his mind. So because the reasons, if you are going to withdraw your process, you obviously state the reasons. He didn't say that he was withdrawn because Mr. President advised them to withdraw their processes.
Yes. Go on.
First, let me disagree with him with respect. Section 272, sub 3 have been misinterpreted severally by many people. The impression they give is that suddenly, by the amendment of that constitution, federal courts are now superior to state courts. It's a court of coordinated jurisdiction, for God's sake. And the issue, the subject matter, the course of action is a state. I was in the states. Now, that section of the law talks about vacancies, not talk about defections. Vacancies could arise by resignation. It could come by death. Right?
So if you lose your seat,
272 does not override the 109 on issue of defection. They're two different things. So when the High Court of Rivers sat down on that matter, it doesn't act out of jurisdiction. If you go to 109, that's what the court dealt with. The court didn't go to 272. They're the ones that are dragging 272 into the matter.
No, excuse me, you are mixing. I'm not. Section 109 1G says if you defect and there's no division in your party, you have lost your seat. Now, Section 272 now tells you what to do in this circumstance. The appropriate court to go to determine whether somebody has validly lost his seat or not. And they ran to a court that has no jurisdiction.
The word defection is not there in 272.
No, it's not about defection. It's
vacancy,
to determine whether somebody...
Resignation,
no,
otherwise...
Counsel, don't put words into my mouth. It is the Federal High Court that decides whether somebody has lost his seat or his seat has become vacant. Because if somebody has defected according to you and he lost his seat by virtue of that action has become vacant. I don't know why you are playing with the words here.
Well, Chamberlain is going to get that thing.
Well, which one? There are many.
What I'm saying is it's Section 109. Section 109 says if there is a defection in your party.
Okay, so CC 109, and correct it. I hope
109 1G.
109 1G. No, 109 1 first says a member of a House of Assembly shall vacate his seat in the House if G then says being a person whose election to the House of Assembly was sponsored by a political party, he becomes a member of another political party before the expiration of the period for which the House was elected. So he is saying shall there means it's self-execution.
Provided.
Shall.
You understand? There is no provided there is no dispute in that. That's the fact. Because like I told you, the member defected even yesterday. The Speaker of House of Representatives read out his letter. I told you about Ifanyo, but I told you about in Enugu State where I come from. 6 members of Labour Party left Labour Party for PDP.
Okay.
Now if you read now Section 109 said, if somebody defects, he will lose his seat. But the court that will determine whether his seat has become vacant, the exclusive jurisdiction goes to the Federal High Court. And so also if you read Section 251 of 1999 Constitution, even though the State High Court and the Federal High Court are par, but there are in some cases exclusive jurisdictions were given to different courts. And once it is stated by the Constitution, there's no interpretation anybody can give to it.
So, Mr. Eli, what he's saying, perhaps if I understand what he's saying, you say self-executory, he says not. He says it's not. So, do you think that there are probably, condition precedent and subsequent before this session can apply?
No, the Constitution did say so. Okay. Now, people go to court only when there are issues, when there's a dispute.
Yeah.
Was anybody disputing with the Mabel and Co. about defection? They voluntarily read it on the floor. And in the House of Assembly, even if they cough while they're speaking, the Hansards capture it. The Hansards are the reports, verbatim reports of what happens in Assembly.
So 2 things, if I could ask you. If they say it, does it automatically mean that what they say has complied with the laws? Can't I come out and say, well, this has happened? Now my party says, no, I don't agree with you. This is not happening in my party.
No, see, if we follow the laws of the land strictly, if you go to Section 1 of the Constitution, it declares without ambiguity that its provisions are binding on all persons and authorities. So it's not about what I can say in the morning, come back and say in the afternoon. No. The laws allow me to equivocate or do as I please. Whether I'm an individual or a channel television, they can't do that. Once you take a step on an issue, we'll hold you account on that step. Not only did they declare on the floor of the Assembly, they took steps. It is when they realized, there are consequences for this recklessness. They are not backtracking. That should give us a red flag.
Okay, now, so do you have any decision of the court that validates that, look, these chaps have defected and this judgment subsists?
Shemal, I'm saying that people...
Because there's a dispute now about this.
No, there's no dispute. They are the ones.
You are saying that they are saying they haven't.
No, they are the ones. Remember, look at the sequence. On the 11th of December, they announced openly that they've left the party. By the 13th of December, a High Court sat in Rivers State via an interim order, right? And that's how it came to the picture. Then there was a member that had not resigned from the House. As Speaker, he gave effect to 109 sub 2. Read. So if he cites an example where some people defected and the Speaker, who is presiding, refused to give effects, that's not...
So can the process be said to have been complete if the Speaker who decided doesn't give effect?
If the speaker who presiding does not give effect,
if
the speaker does not give effect, does not mean that the law has been set aside. Don't forget that. Look,
but is the process complete?
No, listen. There are two different things. Let me situate this thing very well so you understand. In the case of Rivers State, the speaker that has done that himself when it happened on the 11th of December is also involved. So you cannot be a judge in your own case. No more judex in Kosasoa.
So there was no speaker at that time?
At that time, that 11th, there was no speaker. But by the 13th of December, there's a speaker, backed by law. It says an interim order, but at that moment, that's the law. That's the judgment of the court.
No.
Excuse me. Sorry, let me finish. Yeah. As at 13th of December, that was the law. Whether you call it interlocutory or not, it's immaterial. I thought we sat in the speaker's chair and gave effect to 109 sub 2. That was the law.
Okay, so what about if he says that having resigned, you lost your position as speaker?
That's an effect. That's an aftermath. He has left the seats. That does not nullify what he has done. Look, Celeste Mayor was governor of Rivers State from May 29, 2007, until the Supreme Court knocked him off October 25, 2007, when Richard Meji took over October 26. That did not invalidate the acts, including the assembly that they proclaimed.
The office is deemed to have taken that decision.
Of course.
Okay, quick response.
No, it's not true. It's not true. Now, he said as at 11th, there was no speaker.
No, I didn't say so. I said at the 11th, there was a defection. Maybe the speaker chair and read the letters.
He said he did it on 13th. That was what he said.
No, now you don't get the argument here, sir.
So when was the pronouncement made by Edison?
Now listen again. On the 11th of December, at plenary, Martin Chika Megule read our letters. We have the video on channels everywhere. On the 13th, a High Court of Rivers State sat down and gave an ex parte order granting Edson here.
Ex parte?
Yes, motion party.
No, the court in this case. So what I'm saying is that the court appointed Edison here.
You can say the court appointed Amechi governor in 2007.
Is that what I'm saying?
Yes.
No, now what was saying is
hold on, sir.
As at the time,
ask a question. Let me land.
Let him just land. Then you respond.
Ask a question. Let me land.
As at the time.
No, you're going to come in immediately. Finish it. Finish quickly so you respond.
Yes. At the time, the courts exist as moderators. All right. When things happen between arms of government, between the court step in. You could as well say the court appointed Amici as governor, right? In 2007, because he didn't participate in the general elections. The court can intervene and make a man a woman. It's as a line.
Hold on a second.
No, I'm not holding on now. Let me also play my mind. I'm not holding on. Now, what I'm saying is this.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is this. As at the time this man was made a speaker by the court, according to him, he did not form a quorum. According to section 96 of section 1, what the constitution says, if you did not form a quorum, you are adjourned. He didn't tell anybody to be two and appoint a speaker.
What is the defection?
The defection, no, the defection came on 11th.
Yes.
But as at the 13th, he went to SAT. They didn't form a quorum to transact any business.
The reinstated APC chairman in the state, Emeka Beke, he's confirmed that they are members of his party and that he's in possession of their membership cards.
That's why I'm saying the question of defection is a question of facts, not a question of law. Because all these facts should come before the court, who should not sit down to know whether the condition stated in section 109 subsection G has been infiltrated or not. If the court is of the opinion that these people have defected, they will declare the seat vacant, as the court did in Abengude's case. It's not somebody sitting somewhere that declared the seat of Abengude vacant. It was court. And in this case, what we're saying is that if they are led to believe that 25 others, now 27, have defected from PDP to APC, they then go to court with all these facts they are talking here. The court will look into the facts and give a verdict. Now, because the governor has been consistently disobeying court order that are not in tune with him. Now, I cited judgment of Omotosho. I cited judgment of Peter Lifu. I cited Court of Abi judgment. I cited the judgment of yesterday. That the governor is saying it doesn't matter. I
mean, it would be an injustice to the people of Rivers State. I mean, the legal conversations and the debates about it, they're very important for clarity and understanding. But these funds are supposed to go to the local governments. They're supposed to be able to help the people. We would not be doing justice to this conversation if we do not talk about the impact that this thing is going to have.
No, the people should not. The people should not approach the government and tell him to do the right thing. Because we're in democracy. Democracy is guided by rules. There are rules of engagement in democracy. It's only a military government that might is right.
So the people should approach the governor?
The people should approach the governor. The people that elected the governor, they should approach the governor to say, hey, Mr. Governor, please obey the court judgment. There are 4 judgments that are pending before you. Please give effect to that judgment and move on. So the court did not say don't give for. He said represent this.
Let me ask you.
Represent this 2022 appropriation bill to the appropriate.
Again, if I understand what he's saying that look. So, or maybe I should also ask. If the governor then says, well, maybe in the interest of the people of the states, because look, the state cannot come to a halt. Business must go on. If he then says, well, of course we're not happy with this judgment. The people, at least if the people say we're not happy with this judgment, I'll present this budget. Of course they can't reject. I don't know if they'll reject it, but if they pass the budget and then he then subsequently says, I'm going to appeal this case, what would have gone wrong?
No, see, we will not make a mistake twice. We just had an example where the governor withdrew on the of the president.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other parties run away with victory. Now, when he says here that the governor is disobeying orders, I take strong exception to that. You're misrepresenting facts. The governor acts on laws. When these judgments were given, as I speak to you, people file motions for stay, all right? For execution. People go ahead and appeal. That last matter is for the Supreme Court.
These are
excuse me. Now, until the Speaker determines an issue, you can't come around and help the source of self-help. So if the governor, while he's waiting for the Speaker to speak on that issue, all right, one of those matters that the appeal court ruled, that's in their disfavor, is before the Supreme Court. Right? Well, Okojumbo is Speaker. Listen. If the Speaker says no, go back. Then you cannot come back here and sit in the judgment and say, Governor, go and comply. While the governor has gone on appeal, the governor cannot approbate and reprobate. You cannot be on appeal and then go back and present the budget. Now, what are they asking for? I said a court comes to a finding of facts when all the facts are before the judge. All right? Mm-hmm. The issue of defection has not been determined by any judge. There's no time in all of this that a court sat and somebody was put in the witness box to now prove evidence of defection and that the person failed to prove before the court. So when that kind of thing, now everybody's lashing on Motor's judgment because that's where this crisis is coming from. Well, after the party had withdrawn, they had the counter-affidavit to show that you defected, had withdrawn. There was something before the judge, all right? So lashing on that is not doing justice to the case.
So, gentlemen, willing to wrap up. You got a question?
I mean, there isn't time.
No, I had a
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
No, what I'm
just wrap up in a few seconds.
According to him, he said the issue of defection has not been decided.
Yes.
If the issue of defection has not been decided, that 27 lawmakers remain the members of the Assembly.
Hold on.
See, that is the position of the law. And the law, our constitution cannot allow 3 members, according to the judgment of a motor, so-called members to sit down, pass appropriation bill, screen commissioners, and do certain correspondence with the governor. It is invalid.
Yes. The Dapalong and Darius case come for the Supreme Court. The court said no, those members can sit. The section 102, read section 102 of the Constitution.
Until it gets to Supreme Court.
Hold on.
Answer the question.
No, he said no court has done it. In this case, the Dapalong case is saying
did anybody call
the Dapalong case is saying it's a decision of the Supreme Court, not a statement from the governor of
Did the governor file a suit in court?
It is still the rule of law, whichever way, not the rule of law. So they both know that, well, if a judgment is there, you have to appeal. And if you get a stay, it stays until that matter is adjudicated upon and decided.
Declaratory judgments are not stayable. You don't stay declaratory judgment. It is immediately implemented upon pronouncement. These ones are declaratory judgment. You don't stay it.
Shogba Eli is a lawyer,
the state does not
former chairman, Degame local government area in River State, and Emmanuel Anyanya, legal practitioner. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having us, Timberley.
Business Morning comes up now.
Well, hello, welcome. It's the last trading day of October. I guess it's safe to call it October because we've had a lot of green closes for the weeks. But this week is proving quite stubborn with 3 days of losses in the market. But let's hope we can get a green close today and tomorrow and cap the whole month up. But let's get a check on the oil market now. See, oil prices rose today with Brent crude futures again about 35 cents, up 0.5% to about $72.90 a barrel. We see WTI not left out there, up over 0.5% there. Price at $68.93 a barrel. We also see from last week, definitely was a big drop we had last week. But that's started on Monday with another drop, but we've seen a recovery right there for the oil market. Let's get a check on what's happening with the FX market now. See the Naira, that dropped marginally about 0.04%. 0.04%, 1,666 naira for the NAFEX window, and that's down 0.33%. And definitely still all about liquidity, what's happening with liquidity, and definitely we'll see interventions from the Central Bank of Nigeria. All right, now, definitely for the commodities market update, we have Dumebi Moluwole. She's a senior analyst, financial derivatives company, and she's going to be talking to us about what's playing out with the Naira and what's happening with supply. Yeah, Naira supply at this point. Good to have you, Dumebi. So definitely a lot is playing out right now when you look at the FX market. Then we also see money supply. That's also rising. Then another thing. I'm wondering how much the consumers can take at this point. We're seeing another rise there for PMS, and this is coming from the NNPCL.
Yeah.
How much can we take?
So that's a couple of things to unpack. So, but just starting off with the exchange rate, we do know that we've been having supply issues. In the month of October, we first saw like a steady increase in market supply, at least at the official window, where the Naira was trading relatively, cheaper compared to September. But towards, I think, October 24th, we did see a significant dip in the average daily turnover, and that significantly crashed the FX rate prices. And then moving on from there, and we're also seeing like a widening gap between the parallel markets rates. We're also seeing a widening gap between the parallel markets rates and that's also, creating like a wide premium, a spread between the FX rates, and significantly impacting market sentiments across board. So that's pretty much what's happening with the FX market. We're seeing a lot of supply and demand issues affecting the market. So on the demand side as well, we're also seeing that festive season demand is also, propping up some level of concerns as well with the market. So those are like the issues with the Naira in terms of supply and demand. Now looking at commodity prices, we're seeing like, I know you mentioned the money supply growth, so that's a significant, factor that is currently, pushing up Nigeria's inflationary pressures. And we do think that until we see a significant decline in until we see a significant decline in money supply growth, we think that inflationary pressures will still be very pertinent across the economy. So, one pointer to this is the fact that one pertinent factor to this issue is the fact that we have seen, the CBN definitely try to tighten market liquidity, interbank market liquidity, to somewhat reduce money supply growth, because we do think that that's one of the factors that's currently nudging inflation in Nigeria. We're also seeing an increase in money supply from FAC.
At this point, we've seen tightening measures from the central bank, but I don't know why we're not seeing that impact. When we see the data.
In terms of money supply.
Why is it not coming down?
So I would say it's a couple of factors. So we do know that, number one, there's an increase in cash circulation at the moment. When you look at what happened, I would say, I think it was toward the end of 2023, thereabout, or 2022, when we had both the old Naira notes and new Naira notes together in circulation. At that point, we did see like a huge jump in cash in circulation, and that definitely contributed to money supply. So that hasn't been mopped up from the economy completely yet. So that's one of the factors contributing to it. Then you also consider that FAC disbursements as well have been increasing, especially because, now when you convert the dollars to Naira, the FAC disbursements are higher. That as well is contributing to money supply growth in the country in Naira terms, obviously. And then you also look at the fact that we're seeing a lot of spending across board, and there's also like a huge chunk of liquidity within the interbank market as well, contributing to this money supply growth that is somewhat nudging inflation. But primarily, when we always talk about Nigeria's inflation, we always tend to go back to the structural issues, simply because money supply is just one of the many factors. And when you even dissect Nigeria's inflation, you would realize that the impact, the coefficient of money supply that's impacting inflation is pretty slim when you consider other factors like insecurity, low agricultural sector productivity, low storage facilities, and the exchange rate as well. So money supply nudging inflation in Nigeria is pretty much just a lower tier, right? But then within the purview of the central banking system, it is something that they have to address, and that's why it's a pertinent issue. So much to unpack there, and definitely for the last meeting of 2024, we'll see what the CBN has in store. Thank you so much, Dumebi Oluwole. Always great having your perspective on this.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we're going to be looking at the consumer goods sector. We'll drill down on what's playing out there. That's in a moment. Just stay with us. Welcome back. Well, let's look at Nigeria's consumer goods sector with a focus on flour mills. Nigeria, I see the company is undergoing strategic restructuring at this time. We've seen them, try to do a lot of initiatives, buybacks and all of that. But let's understand the broader context and implications of these decisions for the company and for the sector. Joining us for this conversation, we have Dr. Ayo Teriba as a CEO. Economic Associates. Join me right here in the studio. Great to have you, sir.
Thank you very much.
So, quite a number of initiatives this company is undergoing at this time. Talk to me about why they chose, this time. And, looking at the sector, we see a lot of challenges, right there with operators. So, talk to me about, these initiatives that the company is undergoing.
Right. Yeah, the tearing. You speak about the sector. But the tearing has been very, very active, whether you're looking at the country, macroeconomic dynamics as a whole, or the realities that players face in specific sectors. For example, in the agribusiness sector, where the Nigerian flour mills operate. You hear a lot of what the government is saying about food and the need, for Nigeria to have enough of agricultural produce. You hear a lot of statements about, rebates on import duty, specifically on food. Now, this is a company that operates, in the food and agribusiness sector, for who farm output, guaranteeing steady supply of farm output at stable prices is key, for the sustainability of their factory production activities and for their, downstream ability to engage, with their consumers. So why now? Why not now? No time,
I guess no time would be better than now.
If the idea is to strengthen your strategic grip on the levers of your own sector or the levers of your own company, of your own value chain, I do think that now is a good time. It's a surprising time because it's a time when company after company come in to tell you that they are exiting, big name companies for that matter, both in the agribusiness value chain and elsewhere, in the economy. So for you to find one that says, I want to invest more, I want to repurchase my minority share holding, and I want to strengthen my propositions upstream to guarantee stability for my factory operations and serve my consumers better.
And talking about, talking about buying back, the minority shareholders, is that, typically if a company does this, how does it help in the company's ability to attract investment?
Well, the you have multiple sources of investment that a company can choose from, and the decision on which is the preferred option rests, with the company. In this case, they've chosen to go private. They want to raise $1 billion in additional investment to be injected over the next 5 years, I understand, and they choose to do so privately, and to make sure that the interest of the minority shareholders, do not suffer. So they are offering to buy back and at a premium, and so it's a choice, whether you want to increase. Some other companies are increasing their, issues in the market. They, in their own case, want to go private and raise the money,
And definitely, with an expansion plan, as big as this, do you see, any risk ahead, because at this point we're still dealing with currency fluctuations at this point, and we've seen how all of that has played into, most of the reports we're seeing, especially from the consumer goods sector, when it comes to, forex losses and all of that. Do you see any risk there?
Well, there are always risks ahead. Business is not about avoiding risks. Business is about taking risks. While the decision I hear them announcing that they have made is to increase their investment upstream. I hear them saying that they've invested in higher yield seedlings, and they would like to have an increased take upstream to guarantee stable, and affordable supply. So I do think that much of the move is meant to minimize risks.
I'm talking about
to minimize their dependence. Yes.
I'm talking about minimizing risk and dependence on some sources. We know local materials sourcing is another issue. When it comes to companies like this, you don't want them importing raw materials at this point. So what do you think is the plan to actually boost local sourcing of raw materials?
If I understand it correctly, the investments to be injected, the bulk of it is meant to be deployed upstream, to strengthen, their propositions in farm inputs, seedlings and grains. And so if that is it, they are trying to reduce their dependence on third-party suppliers upstream. So I think that's much less risky than when, you just sit down in the factory and hope that some others will invest in higher yield seedling for you. Some others will ensure that the crops arrive when you need them. So I do think that they're trying to reduce, such risks, going forward.
All right. So looking at, other African markets, what risk will you say Nigerian companies face, in going into most of these other African markets? Because, it would be nice to get some of these companies actually exporting, to neighboring African countries and, bring in some, forex. But what risks are you seeing for that?
Well, perhaps we should frame this in terms of opportunities in other African countries. If it was going to be risky importing, then perhaps when you strengthen your propositions upstream, when you guarantee that you can have the crops, then you are speaking about opportunities, to seize, demand, a sales opportunity, cross-border sales opportunity across. If the company we're discussing is not into export of produce, they're into export of, value-added manufactured items, so their proposition for other African countries is to also serve them, some of their staples, in the, flour, in the spread and margarine, vegetable oil, and sugar value chain. So if the opportunities are there, and it's increasingly difficult for everybody to import, so why not export?
Okay, so
and that gives you income revenue diversification. It also gives you foreign exchange supply.
Yeah, we need that foreign exchange, definitely. But looking at all the moves the company is making at this time, what impact do you see it having on the sector and on employment?
Well, if exit is going to be negative on employment, and if it's going to impact, the sector negatively, then they are not exiting. They are doing repurchase of minority shareholding, and they're injecting $1 billion over the next 5 years. Injections are favorable for the country. It's favorable for the macroeconomy, and it's favorable for the sector. And of course, it should be favorable for their business. So this is what the President Tinubu regime encourages, that more companies would invest more in the country. So,
all right, and definitely we're hoping for...
It's unquestionable.
Yes, we're hoping for no more exits or less exits and more entry and expansion in most of these...
particularly in the segments.
In this segment,
that are
yes.
critical.
Yes, because consumers are going through a lot right now.
Manufacturing operations, yeah.
All right, I want to thank you so much, Dr. Ayo Teriba, CEO, Economic Associates, for helping us unpack, the moves by this company. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so discussions about tackling Japa in Nigeria with technology. We see that's ongoing at this time, but the pressing issue of brain drain in Nigeria is essential to understand its scale and implications across sectors. So this phenomenon has significant consequences for country's economy, innovation, and overall growth potential. Additionally, we'll discuss the role of technology in facilitating remote work. Join us for this conversation. We have Yen Choi. He's a co-founder Netcom Africa, joining me right here in the studio. It's great to have you, Yen.
Hi, good morning.
Morning. Yeah. So yeah, we keep talking about people looking for better opportunities. When there's a cost of living crisis, and we see the macros are not looking so good. So like birds, migrate. We see people try to migrate to greener pastures. But talk to me about brain drain in Nigeria. In your opinion, what's it looking like? How bad is it really?
Well, it's pretty bad, especially with the youth. So, in our organization, a lot of our management have been with the company for 10, 15 years. But the youth, 1, 2 years, before you know it, they want to do their masters in the UK. So it's quite severe. So we're in the telecom industry. It's happening in healthcare. It's happening in tech industry, in many different industries it's happening in.
Right, and definitely that some would say it's a good thing. You have your people going out there, and maybe it could turn into diaspora remittances that could be converted. So that's some kind of opportunity, with that. But talk to me about how, because we still need talent, within the country. Talk to me about how technology can help retain talent, in the country.
Well, the first thing that comes to most people's mind is remote work. Right, so you're working for an organization that's abroad. You're making better money, usually in most cases. You need technology. You need a very good laptop. You need a very, very good internet connection, maybe even 2, right? You need a comfortable workplace, and you're there to go. But what most people don't talk about is, what are you actually doing? Are you exporting yourself? Are you exporting your knowledge? And because of that, it's not just the technology that's needed. Like, what is the skill that you're exporting? And right now, a lot of the remote working jobs is some type of business process outsourcing, whether it's a call center or providing customer support or some type of outsourced software development. And these remote workers are acting individually, not as an organization. So there is a massive opportunity where a company in Nigeria would get into this business process outsourcing to provide those services and create jobs.
And I've heard from some people trying to get some of these remote jobs, and some have talked about challenges when it comes to certificates or certification. Some say they don't have maybe the certificate from that country, so it's looking like it's difficult for them to actually get some of these remote jobs out there. So talk to me about that. Do you really need to get an international degree to actually get some of these remote jobs, or you can just work with your Nigerian degree?
Well, I'm not advocating anybody to leave the country and helping them leave to...
No, get that remote job here, work here,
exactly,
and attract the foreign currency.
So that's why that intermediate company is necessary. As an individual, you need to demonstrate all your certificates. But if you're working for an organization within Nigeria that has that relationship abroad, that approval process only happens within the country. And that's where the opportunity is to understand the local situations of employment.
Right, because I've heard a lot of talk about that, and some people, like recently, I heard a lot of complaints about internet service. Some people, working remote here, they say it's really difficult. When you have to have multiple internet service providers, and we've heard talks about most of the telecom companies talking about raising tariffs, that they're not able to survive with these prices, at this point. So how serious should we be taking this internet issue? Because it's also impacting, some of these people that are trying to get these remote jobs.
Yes. I think that mainly affects the consumer mobile networks. Mobile data in Nigeria, 30 gigabytes of data is about $3 US. In America, it's more than 15 times that amount. Okay, so data is cheap here, but that's consumer data. And actually, there's a lot of pressure to mobile operators to raise their prices because they're buying all the same equipment in US dollars. So how can they be profitable? So I'm assuming they're going to be struggling a lot. But at the same time, a lot of companies in Nigeria are using very, very reliable, solid internet services, business-grade internet services, which are not shared. They're highly available, they have redundant connections, and they're capable of doing all that remote work, video conferencing, screen sharing, multi-team collaboration, and it does work. So that is available in the country today.
All right, talk to me about examples of countries that have been able to use technology to actually retain talent in their country.
Well, let's look at India, for example. India, the call center business process outsourcing industry is a major contributor to the GDP. And how did they do it? This is the industry that didn't exist 25 years ago, and now it's become this massive industry. First, they brought in diaspora who have experience in that industry to set up those businesses, to get those jobs and those contracts as an organization. One of the first BPO deals in India was the outsourcing of American Express call center. Massive, hundreds, thousands of people. And that just grew and grew and grew. So now what's happening is you're getting a large amount of Indian diaspora that want to go back to India and grow and participate in that industry where it's dynamic and they can grow and there's more opportunity instead of being stuck in a job that pays well but is boring.
So, definitely we've been hearing about, talks when it comes to the U.S. and China, when it comes to technology. There's that battle, going on, right now. And, what we're trying to say is there's going to be that superpower, for technology. These countries are trying to, claim their own. But looking at countries like Nigeria, Africa, what should countries like Nigeria be doing, right now to be able to, play in this technology market, at some point? Because we keep importing most of our technology. It's time for us to produce this technology. What should we be doing right now?
the mere fact that people are leaving the country, where are they going? They're going to get involved with the high technology sectors, healthcare across the world, which means the talent is here already. Okay? Now, why are they leaving? Because life is tough. 10 years ago, with 100,000 naira salary, you can buy 10 tanks of fuel. Today, you buy one if you're lucky. Salaries have not increased. So people are pushed out of desperation to leave. But if that lifestyle can be sustained, then they will stay. So I think that's one of the main drivers of that.
So, looking forward, do you see, Africa and countries like Nigeria, able to step up, when it comes to, exporting technology at some point, or at least just, producing most of it, in country?
Yes, so they're leaving, they have the skills, AI, microchips, software development, business process outsourcing. Any of these industries they're not exporting people, but they're exporting knowledge. That's the key. You don't need to build factories. You don't need to buy buildings. You just need to cultivate people. Upskill, train, export the skill, not the people.
Export the skill and
not the people.
Well said. Thank you so much, Yen Choi, co-founder Netcom Africa. It was great having your perspective today.
Thank you very much. All right. Bye-bye.
All right, as I said before, it's the last trading day of October. Definitely, I'm sure investors are bracing for what's to come. That's in November. Will it be a November to remember? We'll definitely find out. But that's it from me on Business Morning today. I'm Ladi Williams. I hand things over now to the Sunrise Daily team.
24 hours after the postponement of the screening exercise for 7 ministerial nominees of President Bola Tinubu, lawmakers converge on the second day of plenary to kickstart the process. It begins with the suspension of the Senate rules to admit the nominees, beginning with Dr. Nentawe Yilwatda, who replaces the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Betta Edu.
I was born to late Reverend Toma Yilwatda in a community little village called Dungun.
The nominee receives an effusive validation of his pedigree as he speaks about his strategies.
The first thing you do is you get data, because data is a king in resolving challenges in the 21st century. And this is what we may do as a country or as a ministry if given the opportunity.
The next nominee, who is also a former Minister of Police Affairs, Mr. Megari Dingyadi, is admitted next. His wealth of experience clearly precedes him.
You serve as a minister and you have been returned again today. So I don't know what new we are going to ask you.
Lawmakers ask that he take a bow and leave. Ambassador Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu, appointed as Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, is then admitted into the chamber.
I am a mother of 3.
She elucidates plans for the ministry.
Our Ministry of Foreign Affairs have to prioritize ensuring that missions abroad actually reflect the true magnitude of Nigeria's standing in the Committee of Nations.
Lawmakers from the southeast spared no words in their commendation of her intellectual capacity and even beauty.
She's very intelligent, very, very charismatic, and very beautiful.
Please, restrict your comments to her resume.
The legislators also screened one of their own, a former Speaker of the Kano State House of Assembly. The senators also gave the nod to the Minister of the newly created Livestock Ministry from Adamawa State, after what they describe as an impressive track record.
Give us a brief summary of your vision for the new ministry.
In the immediate, our intention is to incentivize all herders and other animal rearers to remain where there are grasses, and the ministry will intend to work with other critical stakeholders to make sure that this vision is realized.
The next nominee and immediate past special advisor in the office of the Vice President, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, is also admitted into the chamber.
What we now need to deliver is the convergence of these two pillars of monetary and fiscal policy with trade, investment, and industrial policies to further drive growth.
The 4-hour screening exercise concluded with the Minister of State for Education, Dr. Shuaiba Ahmed.
I commenced my NYSC at the Department of Education, Bayo University, Kano, between 2003 to 2004. I also assessed different policies at state and federal level, including gender and social inclusion, school safety.
Clearly impressed, lawmakers agree that she takes a bow. All 7 nominees are then confirmed by the Senate. Now, consequent upon the confirmation of these 7 new ministers, the lawmakers have apparently ramped up the expectations of these ministries with a determination to double down on their oversight for accelerated development across the country. From the National Assembly, Gloria Omezuke, Channels Television News.
All right, Ladla Konde is here with us, a former presidential aide. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, so there you go. They have been screened. They're as good as confirmed anyway. So the swearing will happen. They will join the cabinet and make up the 48 ministers that we do have. So what are your expectations?
Oh, well, I think, some of them are clearly outstanding appointments. I think we already made that point. Somebody like Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, who has been, doing the work of ease of doing business for about 8 years now, seem to have, added quite a bit of experience to our knowledge. So there's a lot of expectation that she will go in there and begin to do the things that she has been advising on before. The role of a special advisor, you're not really meant to implement. Now she gets the opportunity to implement. So I think the highest level of expectation is around our nomination and now confirmation as the Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment. So there's a big expectation on our side. And I think also when you look at the person in charge of livestock, the new Ministry of Livestock. Now, many of us weren't persuaded that we really needed a new livestock ministry, but I think the argument has been made since then that, look, if this is done properly, it can actually transform the Nigerian economy based on the kind of numbers that livestock has generated in other economies. So there's a lot of expectation, a huge expectation and burden on the neck of Mr. Mayhew.
Before you go to the other ones, yes. What would you say to those who always ask, because you use the word properly, what has been done properly so far in this country? In ministry?
Well, don't let's get to that depressing, but quite a few things, quite a few things.
Such as?
At times we all come together and get results in sports, especially in football. And I think that the social investment program, especially between 2016 and 2019, I think it was so well done that it won acclaim locally, nationally, and internationally.
Well, that was when the social investment program was handled by the former vice president's office.
Yeah.
So that's brought us to 2 more ministries. We've talked...
No, before those 2. Because for industry, trade, and investment, which you talked about what she's been doing before this office.
Yeah.
But how much of an individual pedigree will come to light or can come to light or can be independent of the system, the structure, because you're going to be all of that and your team is all of that.
Or the system itself stops you from being as good as you would want to be.
Yeah.
And like you stated, the job of an advisor is different from the job of a minister.
Yeah, so that's a very, you guys have just brought up the big elephant in the room in terms of when somebody wants to be transformative and the system is not designed to be transformative, which is the challenge, So that is why people who are reformers also have a job. It's going to be difficult. For instance, look, the social investment program that we had just referred to, when that program was being instituted, there were quite a lot of tremendous, even internal opposition. You wouldn't believe the amount of internal opposition, even among those who belong to the party that pushed the manifesto, not to talk of in the system. But because of consistency and persistence, insisting that we're going to do this, it was done. And it was done to global acclaim. So these things are possible. It's possible. I mean, a reformer just has to understand that, okay, this is what I'm going, this is what I'm going against. And you prepare for it. You know, you have to inspire your team. You have to let them understand that, look, this stuff that we're trying to do is for the benefit of the entire country. And you got to show them how they will also benefit if this is properly done. And we've had ministers in this country who have also tried to do some transformative things. You know, Obi Ezekwesili tried to do quite a bit in solid minerals, in education, you know, Okonjo-Iweala, you know, in finance. And we've had quite a number of other, you know, outstanding ministers who, despite the challenges in the system, and some of the challenges are also legitimate. For instance, you know, the civil service is poorly paid. I mean, and so that affects motivation also.
Let's get to those two, because there are two of ministers right now that everyone is going to be holding their necks very soon.
Yeah.
The one that replaced Betta Edu.
Yes, Dr. Letangwe.
Yes. That's for the humanitarian
and poverty alleviation.
And the conversations around that ministry, people say it is rife with corruption. I was listening to Senator Ned Nwoko yesterday on Politics Today, where he was talking about how, this person is actually, this man who's coming right now, he's talked about data. But Betta Edu talked about data as well when she was coming.
Yeah.
And a lot of them said, we have to rearrange this register. So that we can, and that social investment cannot be something that you just take money and share to people. It has to be systematic, so that you know that if you fall below a particular, just like they have in the US, if you fall below a particular figure, you know that you're going to receive a particular amount. It doesn't have to be something that the politician knows you and is friends with your father and decided to give you 5,000 at the end of the month. But that ministry in itself, this man who's come in, we've seen accolades, you know, at least from Senator Ned Nwoko yesterday. What's he up against, and how can he deliver in that office?
And that's a very important question, because I, in my view, poverty alleviation ought to be one of the major priorities of any government in Nigeria, considering the level and the impact of multidimensional poverty in our country. So poverty alleviation is the big deal. It's one of the reasons why some of us raise questions that, look, you can't leave that ministry without a head for that long. Now, we have Letangwe Yitada, and based on what we have picked from people in Plateau State, people in Bauchi State, which we have the places where Letangwe had operated, it seems to be somebody who has the right attitude, compassionate. You need somebody who is compassionate, you know, to be in that place. Number two is you need somebody who also understands the use of data, and you know, based on what is the way he spoke yesterday at the screening, you get a sense that he understands the use of data, is even referred to as a digital expert. So those two things are good that he brings in. What I will suggest to him is that he needs to go and look at how this thing was done when it was done properly, fairly properly, between 2016 and 2019. It's very important, because we have global. It's not just that Nigeria.
Are you blow your trumpet?
Not really. I mean, if you didn't have endorsement from the World Bank, from the United Nations, from African Union, from even local NGOs and CSOs in Nigeria, Action Aid and the National Economic Summit Group, a lot of people were involved in the process. So it's important for him to go and take a look at how it was done.
About that data, though.
Yeah.
Was it our data, or because I mean, I heard several people also saying, well, this was World Bank, UN, all of them were the ones who, quote unquote, even own the data. Was that correct?
No. No. So the data that was used, for instance, in the building up of the social register, the National Social Register, this data was gathered locally. It was just a model. It was a community-based model which was designed by the World Bank. The World Bank designed the model, but in the way it was gathered locally. They had to go to local governments. They had to identify the communities where the poor people are. You know, it was something that was thoroughly done.
But at that time, I believe you also know, Senator Danjuma Goji at the time also said, look, I don't know who these people are. Where do you people get this data? Nobody in my constituency has received anything.
And if you remember, so the special advisor, you know, two special advisors from the office of the Denver President went to the National Assembly. You know, Madam Uwais and Senator Ojudu went to the National Assembly and had an interaction with them and told them that, look, this is the list. Listen to this. This is the list of the beneficiaries. Call anyone now. And they did.
And the criticism, again,
and they found out
that those people were the real people. And that criticism that was faced at the time was from the party. I remember then, during the Buhari administration, it was, oh, you're giving your enemies. You remember that statement? They said, you're giving your enemies empowerment. Give it to the party. Let the party do the distribution. They will sing your praises. You're giving people money and doing investments for people who will not speak up and praise you in public.
Right. So
he's going to be up against that as well.
That's what I was going to make that. We don't know the attitude of Netanyahu to this debate. Maybe Netanyahu is the politician that says, look, let's just take care of our own people first. Or maybe he's indeed a statesman that says, let's take care of the entire Nigeria, which was the point that the then former vice president was saying that, look, let's take care of the whole of Nigeria. Our supporters are our supporters. We know how to sort them out, but because we want to reach the entire country and we want to expand our support base, let this thing go out to as much people as we can. So yes, and it was a very serious argument. A lot of people like Goji and the rest of them, didn't want us. The reason they were raising that argument was that they wanted the money to be given to them so that they distribute, or they are the ones to pinpoint that these are the people that are supposed to be. And we are saying that there's a more scientific approach to it, an objective approach to it.
We don't know if this counts for something. Mr. Dr. Nentawe's mindset. You know, I mean, he vied for the governor of the state, and so he had programs. I mean, his mindset was he wanted to develop the state.
Yes.
He had done some mappings of the state in terms of the kinds of revenue and resources he was going to leverage on to see how the state could be standing by itself. So probably, if his mindset can be relied on, he might have that broad perspective of trying to look at the world from a broader perspective, but not from a keyhole. But being a politician, you don't know when that will kick in. If it's approaching elections and people then say, but Mr. Man, you know, who knows?
I think the challenge for our politicians is to understand that why you got to take care of the people that voted for you indeed, and they ought to be rewarded for voting for you and others didn't. Ultimately, what you are looking for a bigger impact, so that you can even grow the party. So that's the logic. So over a long period of time, you are thinking of getting more people out to ultimately come and vote for you. In the 2019 elections, the second term for President Buhari, the social investment was the big deal that we used for the campaign. It was because everybody knew that this was really happening. You know, so it was useful at the end of the day.
So for him, what would you advise? What can be the yardstick for him to measure himself, or for people to see whether he has succeeded or not?
Well, I think it is in his ability to first and foremost get the data correct. You know, because since after 2019, a lot of drama started in the whole business. A lot of drama that the whole country is aware of. As a matter of fact, it was because of what happened after 2019 that people are now talking about, oh, that data is, you know, who is not that register, who is not down there. When we did it in 2016 and 2019, you didn't, you know, anytime you find an infraction, it is dealt with and publicly communicated so that people had confidence in it. So he's going to have to, first of all, make up his mind what he wants to do about the data. You know, and understand the use of the data and apply it, have a scientific and objective approach to this thing. That is how it brings benefit to him as the minister and to the president who appointed him and the party upon which they stand, is to make it objective. Let everybody see it. You know, I mean, let it
be out there for people to see. Let it be out there. Let be transparent. Let's talk about Mr. Dingyadi.
Yes.
Who's going to be
the Labour. Right.
There's a lot of things going on right now. What should he be thinking? He's going to face, because with the rise in the cost of petrol and the rise in the cost of food, he's going to be facing more protests, probably.
Yeah, you know.
And then more negotiations about this minimum wage and how it's going to be able to play out in the months to come. What should be at the back of Mr. Dingyadi's mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that Mr. Dingyadi has taken up this assignment, which is a very onerous one. You know, I mean, right now, NASU and SANU, they're still on strike. There's going to be a lot of tension, like you said. I think what Mr. Mamadou Dingyadi can bring to the table is an effective engagement with the labor union, the industrial union. You know, it's not that it will be his own job to solve the problem. You know, the entire government is supposed to do that. What he should achieve, which many of the labor ministers have not done very well, is to have a proactive, in my view, a proactive relationship with the industrial unions. You know, have a relationship with them before there is a crisis. And then secondly, when there is a crisis, communicate with them, you know, promptly. You will be surprised that a lot of the times when these labor unions give notices, you know, warning strikes, nothing happens. And you are wondering that, look, so what's the whole point of having a minister of labor, a ministry of labor? That's your own job. If HASU says that we are going on strike and we are giving a 7 days notice, you should start to engage them the moment you get the notice. Now, if you even have a proactive relationship, you know, you will have known what is going to come down the road even before it is announced. So I think what he should try to do is to have a mutual trust. Create mutual trust between himself and the unions, so that the communication back and forth, even if government is not going to be able to solve the problem, if you keep talking with them, that counts for something. You know, they trust you, they trust the process. You bring whichever ministers is involved to the table with them. You know, you have a negotiation, and you make the negotiation, you know, transparent as much as possible. These are very simple things that can give dramatic results. But for the most part, a lot of the people that end up in these ministerial positions, they don't understand it. For instance, you know, some of them think that their job is to go and fight, you know, and go and knock out the industrial unions and say, you can't do that, you can't do that. Yes, of course, there are things that the law compels, but it's important to have a mutual understanding with them and say that, look at what happened in 1992. You know, when ASU went on strike and Babangida was the president, and eventually they brought Obasanjo to solve the problem after 7 weeks. You know, and the president said that, look, this thing that you guys are asking for, we don't have the money. They told them, the federal government team in 1992 told HASU that we don't have the money. Guess what? HASU said that we will find the money. And the president said, you can find the money? Yes. That was how TED Fund, the idea of TED Fund developed. Because HASU said that, look, the money is in this country. Do this, do that. They drafted the decree, and Babangida signed the decree for TED Fund to create money. So when you have a mutual understanding with these industrial unions, the possibilities are endless.
Well, he's been around the bureaucracy, so he's expected to know how to pull the strings and find his way around all of those things. So hopefully, let's see how he performs on that one. Let's take you to Ministry of Livestock Development, Idi Mukhtar Maiha, who lots of expectations for him, even though some don't know how he's going to approach this. But key among some of the expectations will be, how is he going to modernize livestock management and trade? So he's someone who has, I understand, he's been there, livestock management, he's as well, so he should be able to bring those to bear. Is he
going to be bringing modern techniques on, or should he stick to the old ways? What should he be doing?
All right, so the profile of Mr. Mukhtar that we had was that, of course, he's into livestock, he's not politically affiliated, this guy just gets his job done and he knows it, and we respect that. But the first thing that he said yesterday, he brought up the issue of the grazing routes. Excuse me, Those grazing rules are gone. You know, I mean, so that sends a very poor indication of how this guy wants to approach the issue. The grazing rules are gone. We need to modernize the system. We expect somebody like him to be able to talk to the guys and say, you can make more money. There's a way that this thing can be done in a better way than you to still be looking for grazing routes. I mean, I was concerned when he started talking about grazing routes again. Anybody that is talking about grazing routes now is trying to be politically correct.
So that was what I was going to get to. Because it's a political conversation.
Yes.
And it's one that many people hold very dearly. For some reason.
It's sensitive.
For some reason, it's very sensitive to many people. The conversation, of course, about grazing routes is that the world has changed. There's afforestation. There's a lot of climate change.
Infrastructural development
has overtaken over all of those places. But if you were in his shoes, would you want to jettison, you know, that because remember, this is something that a lot of people, himself included, apparently, from listening to him yesterday, hold very dear.
Yeah.
So here we are with this man who still has these ideas about grazing routes and old traditional livestock practices. Should he change his mindset? Should he incorporate new things? What can he do that will please everybody?
Yeah. So that's the whole point about leadership. So when you are a leader, you have gotten to a place where the people haven't gotten to. And it's now your responsibility to take them there. There's no way that Mr. Mahia does not know that ranching is the better way to solve it. There is no doubt about that. Look at his life, look at his business, look at his successes.
He ranches.
Exactly. You know, so for him to be talking about grazing routes is just trying to be politically correct. And there is a place for that because these are very sensitive issues. But as leaders, we expect people like him, just like we expected President Buhari, who was a Fulani man, to be able to talk to the people. I mean, if you are a Fulani leader, say that, look, guys, we can do this thing better. They'll probably listen to you than somebody like who is not a Fulani, who they don't think has understanding of what they're doing. If you have a Fulani leader saying, look, guys, we will do this thing, your children will be better for it, you'll be better for it, even your cattle will be better for it. That's what we need. We need that kind of transformative conversation with the herders and with their leaders to say that we can sort this problem. You know, this idea of grazing routes, oh my God, is so backward. Mr. Minister, please repent before you take that job.
Well, you know, incidentally, he was MD of Kaduna Refinery. So he's got a rich CV in being a technocrat. So how is he going to balance all of those will remain to be seen, because you expect that to be in that kind of industry, you should be forward-thinking.
Yeah.
So many will hope that he knows how to navigate. But I guess we'll wait and see. You never can tell with politics. When you get in there with all your pedigree, some things, politics just happens to you, who knows. But with this one, there's just one thing Nigerians expect, and nothing more than you must succeed.
Absolutely.
You must improve the lives of the people.
Absolutely.
If not, you know what to do.
It's no use.
Mr. Akonde, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's look at Professor Enahena's comments. He says, he's talking about River State, by the way. He says, River State is too important for the leaders of the PDP to watch from afar as two senior members of the same party disagree, or their disagreement is attempting to set the state on fire politically. And this, he says, can snowball into serious anarchy, given the atmosphere of the fragility of the state, which is prone to conflict and violence by different groups of renegades waiting to capitalize in this impasse. Whatever the issues are, both sides of the divide must exercise restraint for the sake of the people of River State. So he pleads, Professor Diana. That is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you again next time. I'm Chamberlain Usopp. Goodbye.
Have a great day ahead. I'm Kayla Megwa.